time once again to slip into your camo, grab your bow, and join us out in the field for another episode of the Up North Journal, presented by PSE Archery. The Up North Journal crew is knocked and ready to rock for another exciting adventure. So let's step outside and hit the trail.
This episode of the Up North Journal podcast is brought to you by
PSE Archery, Yamaha Outboards, Better the Hunt, Easy Cut, Packer Max, Deer Camp Coffee, Buck Baits, JPO Game Calls, Limwalker Game Calls, Wild Seasoning, Total Peep, Sunrise Archery, Scent Lock, and Scent Blocker.
Welcome back to another episode of the Up North Journal, everybody. Host Mike Adams sitting in the cabin tonight with a little sun peeking through. You can see on the wall shining there. We've had rain for what?
I know, right? We've had rain, and then all of a sudden...
Got cold, then now it's warming back up.
And
now
it's going to get hot.
Yeah, so...
Welcome to Michigan, right?
But let's just jump right in and get everything rocking and rolling here today. What do you say? Take care of our supporters and sponsors?
Absolutely. Let's take care of our supporters and sponsors, and we're coming off as muffled, I guess.
Okay, well, we're just going to have to rock with it tonight on
all
Facebook.
Right. So... sponsors. Let's take care of our sponsors. Absolutely. Nothing better than helping our sponsors that help us. Buck Baits. You know, it's getting to be about that time. We're just three months out to hunting season. And if you go over to Buck Baits and use the promo code UNJ20, you can get 20% off your order at www.buckbaits.com. Pretty cool time to do that. Packer Max. He's got the crimper now. I seen a video of that, which looked pretty cool. If you want $25 off your order, go on over to packermax.com or give Lincoln a call and talk with him. Tell him UNJ25, he'll give you $25 off your order. Nothing better than using some game calls. JPO game calls, that's right. We had him on the show. It's getting to be about that time. You're thinking about some game calls down the road. UNJ10, you get 10% off your order at JPO game calls. The slide you don't have... Oh, you got the slide.
Yeah, I guess I did have it there. So.
Use the promo code UNJ2020 over at wildseasonings.com. It's that grilling time of the year. Father's Day is coming up. Nothing like using Wild Seasonings, making father's taste buds happy. Get 10% off your order when you use the promo code UNJ2021. Last but not least... Deer Camp Coffee, Deer Camp Roasting Company and Outfitters. If you want 10% off your order, UNJ10 is the code. Go to deercampcoffee.com and you can then get 10% off your order. So help them and help us.
That's right.
Take care of them.
And I'm moving stuff back here tonight, trying to get some stuff taken care of on the side here as well. So I know we had a comment that our audio was just a little bit muffled there, so we're trying to take care of a couple things back here behind the scenes. And maybe I tell you what, let me bring that up just a touch there, see how that helps.
It's muffled.
There, hopefully that'll help things out a little bit.
Okay, so what do we got here? Let's catch up here on our feed.
Before we get rocking and rolling too deep here tonight.
Sounds like we're underwater.
Oh, that's nice.
Right?
Yeah.
Truck radio is turned to 30 and we're muffled.
Well, we just turned this up. We're on a 20-second delay here, so hopefully this will catch back up here in just a second.
Exactly. So hopefully that took care of it, fix it.
This is what happens when you tear all your equipment apart. You move 30 miles north.
Right.
Things are jostled around. You put everything back together. Nothing is set the way it was. So
I know, right?
It's been a hectic week. We've just got to have to spend some time and get the audio situated and straighten back out.
Exactly.
All righty. Let me do one more quick little thing here. Let me tweak a couple more little things, and then we'll get rocking and rolling. Turn just a touch. Actually, I could just turn your mic off. I think that would settle everything, don't you think?
I'm sure if you turn my mic off, that would be great. Volume is better, but still muffy and vibrating.
I know what that vibrates. That's a ground loop hum coming through because we've got so many electrical cords sitting here, and that's only coming out on Facebook. It's not coming through on our main feed, I don't think.
You did improve the volume.
Okay, good. Well, we got that taken care of.
Super scratchy though.
Oh, you know what? Let me try one more thing before we get rolling here. You entertain with a song and dance.
Tom Gensel says it's getting better, so we're getting there. I'm telling you.
All right, let's do that. This.
You know, it's one of those things, folks. When we do this, that they changed Skype on us. So this week we're using Zoom.
That's another thing.
We don't know why that changed. That never was like that before.
Okay.
Melissa is on and ready. She can't wait to hear this segment.
Well, I'll tell you what, we would be a little bit remiss if we didn't give a quick shout out to FM 123 up in Newberry.
Let's take a look up there. I just looked. It was 66 degrees in downtown Newberry compared to last week when I think it was in the 50s.
And no traffic.
And no traffic.
Looks like it's been raining.
We got to get up there and get some pizza, and you can also stop up there
Cedars.
at Cedars, who has the pizza and also Deer Camp Coffee.
There you go. I got mine right here.
Right, exactly. So that'd be kind of cool. Check that out. But, before we get to our guest, how about we just go and play the video?
Yeah, there's no audio of this amongst the other problems we've had tonight.
Right.
I've had to try to rewire Danny's computer, but go ahead and hit that, Danny, and we'll kind of talk about this. This video has almost 3 million views on YouTube. And if you guys are outdoorsmen or in the water or on the water, you've seen this video probably before. I think I've watched this probably 30, 40 times myself.
And they're doing about 55, 60 miles an hour.
And if you don't remember, this was the Florida Collegiate team,
Yep.
Fishing team, and this just gives you a quick thing as to what can go wrong on the water extremely quick here. And as you see, it went wrong very, very quick. But with that being said, I tell you what, let's just go ahead. Our special guest tonight is none other than the guy that was in that boat, Hunter Bland, all the way from Florida. What's going on, Hunter? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are y'all? I appreciate y'all having me on.
Hey, we finally made the connection and got you here. Glad that you could be on with us tonight. Glad you came through that mishap. Okay. Take us back on that. Let's just jump right into the fray here tonight. What happened on that trip there?
So we had just launched for a collegiate tournament. We had passed boat check. So for those of you that don't fish tournaments, like in a lot of tournament situations, you got to idle down a dock. You got to make sure your engine cutoff switch is on and working. You got to make sure your PFDs are on and fastened. You got to make sure you got no fish hidden away in the live well. They do all that good stuff. So we passed all that. Everything was in proper working order. We're like 2 miles down the river, and as you can see in the video, I crossed the boat wake. My hydraulic steering comes apart after I've crossed that wake. We basically lose a nut, the whole steering assembly comes apart, and then you see what happens. We go for a little joyride there.
Yeah, just a
you
little bit.
You want to call that a joyride, buddy? You can go on your own. That don't look fun at all. I'm not gonna lie. That's one of those things that you can. If you hear the sound of the video, you can hear something go wrong.
Yeah.
And then I think you look and you can see the head start to swivel as to uh-oh. And then moments later, you're going for a ride. Now, was there any injuries, major injuries, or anything like that?
No, sir. Thank the Lord. Me and my partner, Connor was in the passenger seat with me. Thank the Lord we walked away with just a few cuts, scratches, and bruises. I mean, that's pretty much the severity, other than pretty bad PTSD and, a rude awakening that, life's short and anything can happen on the water, and that's why I do what I do today.
Right. The video now is just showing you guys climbing back in the boat. There's a boat pulling up to you guys. There was a boat actually that went by at one point. So obviously somebody saw what happened, and here it's coming back now in slow motion showing what happened. But they came back, turned around, checked on you, make sure you're just okay. And, when did you realize really what had happened? I mean, you were already in the water trying to get back to the boat at that point, realizing, wow, we just got tossed out. What happened?
Pretty much. I mean, it didn't really click until I'm soaking wet, and me and Connor pretty much giving each other bear hugs saying, I'm glad you're alive, man. Like that's when it got real. That's when we're staring at each other going, what in the world just happened? We're soaking wet. And man, we just got ejected. Like it didn't click, but I mean, your shock is a real thing, adrenaline's a real thing, and you just at that moment you're kind of like, what just happened?
Wow. Did you realize that it was the steering that broke on, or did you find out after the fact?
I actually didn't really find out until when all that stuff happens, you go, what just happened? I don't know what happened.
Right.
So I actually looked at Connor, said, are you all right? He said, yeah, are you all right? I said, yeah, man. I said, thank the Lord, but I think we're good. I think we just went for a swim. And so I sat down, and I was so out of it that I sat down, I hooked up my engine cutoff switch again, and I tried to crank the boat, and the boat cranked, and I turned the steering wheel left, and the boat went right. Wow. And I went, that's not good. So I turned around. Right. I turned around and looked, and I saw the entire steering assembly just hanging apart. The one bolt that goes to the bottom of the engine was the only thing left on from holding the whole steering assembly onto the engine.
Wow. Did you ever find out why it came apart? Once you got it back to shore and had it looked at?
It's one of those things that nobody could explain other than they've never seen it happen. And I mean, to be honest, I talk a lot about now, there's a positive in every negative situation. It's just your outlook on life, no matter what that is. Like, I've went through a lot of things at my age that I don't feel like most 25-year-olds should have to go through. Right. But the one thing that, I joke with a lot of buddies and stuff is they always joke with me for saying positivity wins, because at the end of the day, this is one of those examples that nobody could explain it. There has actually been a lot of people that have personally messaged me on social, reached out to me at different fishing events and stuff like that, they've come forward to me saying, hey, I've had a similar instance that my hydraulic steering come apart. But it doesn't get talked about very much because it's such a severe instance and such a freak thing that nobody can explain it.
Okay. Well, it's one of those things that, it is freakish as it is, and how many one in whatever your odds are for that, and you sit there and you look back at that video, and I'm sure you've seen that video countless number of times and showed it countless number of times, but it's an amazing thing that you guys were able to get back up on that boat and just have, just that being safe, and that kill switch plus your PFDs alone really helped you guys out. That kill switch shutting that engine off, thank God didn't run you back over or anything like that.
Well, yes, sir. No doubt.
Well, looking at that, when you were tossed out of the boat and the boat kind of turned sideways, how close were you to the actual prop when you were tossed out, when that boat come around? I
was probably pretty close. I don't really know. I won't ever really know. I do know that if you slow that thing down until like 1/100th of a frame on a 72-inch big screen, I was very, very close to hitting my head on the gunnel of the boat.
Yeah, that as well, right.
You look like a really good Raggedy Ann doll. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I've heard my cartwheel skills are pretty good, too.
Yeah, they were. No doubt about it. You're not going to lie. They you got a perfect 10 for dismounting the boat. How's that?
That's right. I've gotten that one a lot. Style points are 10 out of 10.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, it's a bad style point. I'm not going to lie. But I tell you what, that changed your life. Your whole life changed in that split second.
Yes, I would definitely agree with you. And I mean, it was one of those things that, like I said a minute ago, stuff happens. Anything in life happens, whether it's positive or negative. And you're like, why did that happen? We're always going to ask why. And at that moment, I think I was 21 at the time. I was recently engaged. My bride-to-be, that's my wife now. She's my sweetheart. I love her to death. And, I mean, she's been with me through it all. But it hits you really quick when you get back to the dock and you got to go, change your clothes because you're soaking wet just to go back out and try to fish an event. Mm-hmm. You're chasing a dream. But when you put your feet back on the boat ramp and you realize what just happened, I mean, at that moment in time, I knew something happened that should never happen to anyone, and I didn't want to ever see anybody go through what I went through. Mm-hmm. But looking back 4 years plus later, it was a blessing in disguise. And I know it's hard to, kind of see that, but through that accident, there's almost 3 million people that have seen that and been able to learn from it, critique it, whatever they want to do with it. Mm-hmm. But there has been 3 million people that have been able to see how important it is to wear a life jacket and an engine cutoff switch. And I'm just, it's hard to say, but I'm extremely thankful that actually happened, because I can help save people's lives with that story.
Absolutely. You know what? I tell you what, we're coming up on our first break. How about we take our break, and when we come back, let's kind of dive into how this actually did change your life, or what you were going to school for, and where you're ending up now, and how you work with Yamaha.
All right.
Absolutely.
We're going to step outside. We're going to take our first break. We'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has reinvented the way you buy bows. From now on, you can make the most educated decision possible.
By basing your boat choice specifically on your shooting needs and goals.
All you need to do is ask yourself, what kind of shooter am I? What do I want to achieve?
PSE will help find the right category for you.
So, what kind of shooter are you?
Find out at psearchery.com.
Welcome back. Second segment of the show. We're talking with Hunter Bland, all the way from down in Florida via Zoom. And I think after the start of the way we had things going before the show started, I think we're going to go with Zoom from now on.
Right, exactly. And, you know,
Hunter, thanks for switching over, man. I appreciate it. I don't know what happened at the beginning of trying to connect with you. So, but we got a question here before we get into it again.
One of the questions that was asked, how old was that motor on that boat?
The boat and motor package was only like a year and a half old.
Okay, so not really an old motor, and so, you know.
No, and that's a great question because a lot of people thought I was running an older product or anything like that. Mm-hmm. The reality is it had nothing to do, you know, we kept up with all of our maintenance. I preach that now. You know, we checked everything nights before tournaments, after practice. Like, we did everything we possibly could do. But the reality is stuff still can happen and things still can fail. And that's what I learned from that. But it was that boat was only like a year and a half old.
Wow. Okay.
You know, and that's the thing, you know. So you go back at it, you have this accident, and you are actually going to school for something else.
I was. So I actually got my degree in forest resources and conservation. So I was studying how to manage timber. You know, to be honest, my dream growing up, when I was in like 8th grade, I was like, I want to manage deer hunting properties. I want to manage timber. I want to be the guy that lives on that ranch, gets to guide deer hunts, manage everything about the hunting properties. And that's what I want to do with the rest of my life. And I knew that from 8th grade. And I studied that through high school. I did some stuff working with like our local game and fish commission. I had internships all through college, was studying that through college. And then, you know, this accident happened. And honestly, that kind of changed my whole roadmap for life.
Right. So let's start with, how did you get into becoming a professional fisherman hooked up with Yamaha?
So when my accident happened, we were driving back home, and I remember my partner Connor that was in the accident with me. I looked at him and I was like, dude, I don't know what just happened, but I think we can help some people with this. Like, I feel like we probably caught this on video, and if that GoPro stayed straight, that I feel like it caught enough on video that we can help people through this. So fast forward, we actually looked at it with tournament staff. And the amazing thing about it is you have, you know, your boat pedestal seat, and we had a clamp mount clamped around that pedestal seat. That seat did a 360 degrees, but that camera never moved. You could touch that camera with your finger and it would spin 360 degrees. The boat did a 360 and it never moved. And that right there was, you know, one of those moments that I was like, everything happens for a reason. It's meant to be that we caught this on video.
Right.
So long story short, we realized we caught it on video. We threw it online. It blows up. I had reached out to like the National Safe Boating Council, and I just sent him an email. I said, hey, I was this guy. If I can help in any way in the future, I just want to help somebody. I'm so shaken up. I don't know how to deal with these emotions, but I would like to help people if there's any outlets. Well, next thing you know, like, I'm still enrolled at UF, and it's my senior year, I believe. And so, like, when I would get out of my truck in the morning to go to class, anytime I was not in class, I was on the phone with the reporters, everybody. So next thing you know, one thing led to another. The Safe Boating Council asked me to come to a national boating conference. And I remember walking in a room, and they had me with all these different families that had all lost loved ones and stuff. And it started to click for me. It's like, there's people out there that have lost loved ones by no fault of their own. It's just freak accidents. You know, or where somebody else wasn't operating a boat safely and it injured their loved one, and now they no longer have their loved one here. I sat in a room 3 months after going through this accident, hearing all these different stories of people impacted all over the country. And they asked me to get up and share. I had tons of people come up to me. The YouTube video was extremely fresh at the time. the National Safe Boating Council asked me to film a national PSA, and that went exceptionally well. And we actually utilized Yamaha products in the background. And I asked the Safe Boating Council if it was okay that I just wanted to let Yamaha know that we would be utilizing their product in these safe boating videos. And I got an email back that said, thanks so much for supporting boating safety. And then I got another email from David Ittner, who was the pro staff manager, and he asked if we could meet and what my thoughts were for the future, and he'd love to jump on a call. And I read that email and I went, whoa, this is getting real pretty quick.
Oh, man.
So one thing led to another, but I remember Mr. Ittner called me, and I took the phone call in the Publix parking lot in our hometown. And I remember him just started talking through some things with me, and he's like, so what do you want to do with this video? I've seen it everywhere, but I'm just impressed that you didn't sue everybody, and instead you just went to the route of helping people. He said, so I needed to give you a call. I said, well, I really appreciate that. And we started talking through some things, and he says, well, what exactly do you want to do? So I drafted up a full proposal about how I wanted to travel the country and help people. And he says, this is amazing. And that's one thing led to another. And we started a sponsorship and a partnership, for life there. They've done so much for me. Skeeter Yamaha, everybody else that's jumped on board, Mustang Yeti, a ton of, partners. And, I've got a lot of new people jumping on board, because of how much this has grown over 4 years. The support has just been unreal, because I did something that, was kind of out of the box. You got professional fishing, we're all in boats, but ever since I filmed that PSA and Mr. Ittner called me and I got to meet the Yamaha family and become part of the Yamaha family, I realized, that there are manufacturers out there that care so much about, that their product brings so much fun and joy to recreate on the water, but they also care about how safe you are out there. And that's why I support the people I support, because, at the end of the day, we all enjoy the water, but if we're not doing it safely, we're not going to enjoy it for long. So, it's just the reality that if we all practice being safe, we're going to have much more of a longevity out there on the water.
Well, that's the number one, that goes with anything, whether you're hunting, fishing, cutting the lawn, weed whacking, safety. Number one thing is safety. At my job, safety. At Mike's job, safety.
Well, that's what we're doing today. I was doing training for scissor and boom lifts. Safety. It was our 2-year reintroduction to, the basics. But that goes with anything, especially the outdoors. Because we play hard and, we like to enjoy what we do, but, you got to respect the water. When you're bow hunting, you got to respect the height of the tree stand you're in, and you got to do the things right, or you don't live to tell about it, later on. So
exactly. And you providing this with Yamaha backing, basically helping people out. And you talk to all ages, whether they're youngsters or they're seasoned boaters or everybody in between. You give a great message.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. And that's something, to be honest, I had some public speaking, classes and stuff in college, and I liked it. But I got out there sharing what I was passionate about. And I tell a lot of high school kids now, the old saying, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. When I get out there and I start talking boating safety, I truly enjoy what I do because I'm so passionate about it. And without boating safety, I wouldn't be here. Number one, without the people supporting me, I would not be able to share my story, my passion, my boating safety story. So, it takes a village in order for this to happen, and I couldn't do it without those people. But, in reality, I really struggled when I first started. I thought, okay, I'm a young guy. I got a story. It's blowing up on YouTube, but the target audience in safe boating are 20 to 60-year-old males. How do I walk up to somebody old enough to be my grandpa and say, hey, man, I think you need to boat a little safer? I'm not going to deliver the message like that. But what I realized is this needed to be cool. Going fishing's cool. Going hunting's cool. I need to try to be cool and explain to people how we can all be cool by, boating safely. And so Yamaha asked me to go to a National Professional Anglers Association conference in Wisconsin. And I officially signed on January 1 in 2018. On January 3rd, 2018, I was on a plane to Wisconsin. I had never seen snow. I had never been on a plane. And I had spoke to 2 crowds about boating safety. So I was just raring to go, but I had no clue what I was doing. And
were you a little nervous?
I was nervous, but Mr. Hittner from Yamaha was right there, patted me on the back and said, your story is powerful, do what you do. And I remember getting up and they gave me like a Yamaha's breakout session at this event. And all of a sudden, there's a ton of people at this conference, but I had been to a couple breakout sessions and there was like 20, 30 people in there. Next thing you know, I see people standing in the back and I was like, man, people really want to hear like what happened. Like I need to, deliver this from the heart. And I'll never forget, it was really my first talk out of the gate. And there was a gentleman probably in his mid 40s in the second row. And I started talking about how it impacted me, how lucky I was to be alive, how I was recently engaged. And I watched his head drop and he put his hands in and he started crying. And it was one of those moments that I realized, the good Lord's called me to do this. And I really need to just continue to chase this. And no matter what it takes, I'm going to help people across the country. And, instances like that help me realize that this is real and people are affected by this. Like I said, we all love the water, but, everybody's got a family, kids, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, no matter what age you are, you still love the water. If that's what you like to do, you love to hunt. But returning to your family is the number one most important thing. And so that's when that instance really clicked for me. And I've just built on that, through all age groups because I've learned, a little bit better how to deliver those messages depending on the age groups. But just giving a talk and knowing that you're helping somebody, no matter what line of work you do, if you're helping somebody, it's rewarding.
Absolutely. I think Mandy Conger says it here, a comment, you're an exceptional man who is truly dedicated to your message and your work. I kind of agree because you're very passionate, and I give you kudos for basically senior year of college, switching 180 to your life, what you thought was going to be, changing that and becoming a spokesman for safety, and step up for Yamaha and your sponsors to back you to get this message. Because like you said, there's people you normally wouldn't talk to about boating safety that, hey, maybe you should try something a little different than what you're doing, but hey, you all got to come home to your loved ones at night, right?
Well, that's the plan, And speaking of coming home to the loved ones, what are some of the things you tell people besides, the kill switch and the PFD? What are some of the other important things that maybe people like? What's the most overlooked thing that people don't think about? Immediately comes to my mind is a float plan and letting people know where you're at. But what have you come across that people that tend to forget the most, probably?
You stole the words right out of my mouth, but I appreciate everybody for the kind words, and thank you, Mandy, for the comment. But yeah, a float plan, I feel like is so overlooked because there's, since I've been doing this, there's been a lot of stuff that's happened and it's just heartbreaking. But what happens is, I just heard an instance the other day. Somebody was telling me at an event that they were on the lake. Helicopters started showing up. It turned into a full search party. They told everybody to get off the lake because they didn't even know whose truck they needed to start looking for and who they were actually looking for. So they had to clear 100 people out of the boat ramp to even figure out which truck was left.
Wow.
So, a float plan, there's companies started, like Angler Aid started making these boxes, and they have them in different kits now, and they have one that's like a pro kit, and I carry that with me everywhere I go because, it's got everything from fuel clamps to zip ties to super glue to a first aid kit built into it. It's stuff like that you get on the water and now traveling all over the country fishing. I kind of have a joke with my wife all the time because she always says, man, your truck's kind of dirty or it's messy. And I'm like, darling, I could solve the world out of my truck. So between my truck and my boat, like I try to have everything possibly covered. And, I keep everything in my boat. Whether somebody might stop an event that's a competitor, a recreational boater that might need to help, or I cut my finger. You never know what you're going to encounter. So stuff like a float plan, first aid kits, flares, anything like that. And, I even carry more PFDs than I need. At all times, I probably have, I'm joked about as the PFD guy, but at all times, I probably have 68 PFDs in my boat because I've had camera guys jump in. I've had, different people. You need to shuttle them to their boat at launch in the morning. And you don't get on my boat unless you have a PFD. So, it's just simple stuff. I've said for a while now since my accident, you can't predict the unexpected, but you can surely prepare for it. So that's what I try to do, and I try to teach people is think about all the things that possibly, those what ifs, prepare for those, and you'll be good to go when you get out on the water.
So you hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Absolutely.
You know, the girl I'm dating right now, when we go out on the water, we do been doing a lot of kayaking this last year. And, you know, we'll talk, well, do we need to take this or do we need to take that? And I'm like, you know, whatever that thing is, I'll say, well, I'd rather have it, not need it, than need it, not have it, you know. I mean, if we've got room, I mean, you know, we put them in dry bags or whatever and stow them underneath in the bulkhead. You don't know. I mean, it's the craziest things, and you always hear these stories, these horrific stories where people encounter the unexpected, and you know, and if you don't have what you need, then all of a sudden you're left out to, you know, in the dry, and it can cost you your life, like you said. So
absolutely, and even Tammy Duck said it. As you were saying it, I think she was typing it. Better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, I tell you what, we're bumping up here on a second break. We come back, we'll kind of
we'll continue into the life of Hunter Blank.
Yeah, well, you know, and I know you're passionate about some things, and Danny's kind of prepped me on a couple things you do, so I want to start picking your brain on a couple of those things as well. So we're going to step outside, and we'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has always dominated the speed category. Now, the most revolutionary cam system ever to hit the market has perfected the shooting experience. Introducing PSE's Evolve Cam System, featuring extremely high let-off capabilities and the smoothest draw cycle in history. No other cam system has ever delivered this level of total comfort and total control. Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Welcome back. We're back again here with Hunter Bland, talking about boating safety. May was Boating Safety Month, was it not, Hunter?
Yes, sir, it was.
Okay, so, you know, even though this is 1st of June, you know, we're now just getting into the thick of it here in Michigan. You know, and... You know,
ice went out last week.
You what?
Ice went out in Michigan last week.
Well, in the UP?
Oh, pretty much.
Well, speaking of, you said you'd never seen snow when you came to Wisconsin in that January. Did the guys take you out ice fishing while you were there or no?
I did not get to go ice fishing.
Have you ever been?
I have not.
Come up here, plan a trip with us. We'll take you up north if you want to walk some ice. We took some guys from Alabama once, and they wouldn't step across the crack in the ice. They thought they were going to fall through.
It was literally. I wish we would have had YouTube running at that time.
Yeah,
because it was a YouTube.
And you should have seen their face when we actually lit a fire on the ice. We were sitting on 22 inches of ice, but and then they started driving cars out there. Actually, we slept on the ice in a big sleeper shanty. So if you want to come up for an experience, let us know. We'll bring you up for some good ice fishing.
Hey, it sounds like a plan, but I promise you, I'm still wearing my PFD.
I don't blame you.
That's perfectly fine. Now, you know, you never. Ice is like regular water.
Hey,
it might look
right.
safe.
Well, it gets to the end of the ice season here. They tell people to get off the water. People are still out there. We've seen everything from ice shanties to snowmobiles to four-wheelers to cars going through the ice. I mean, people, they push it to the very end. And I guess that goes along with the safety, you know, on the water. You know, even in the winter, you gotta think smart. So
you know, with last month being Boater Safety Month, and obviously he does the stuff for Yamaha, and he's the national boating safety advocate. He's also a coach at the collegiate level.
Okay, so what are we coaching for?
Coaching bass fishing.
Oh, okay. I thought we were going to talk football. Football season's coming up. I was going to give you a roll tide.
You were just trying to get that roll tide in there. I knew what you were doing.
Yeah. I'm kind of leading back to it. Okay, so tell us a little bit about. I mean, that's what you were doing when you had the accident. Was you were at Florida and you were fishing collegiately on the collegiate team, correct?
I was. So yeah, about my freshman year, I came right in to UF fishing for their bass fishing team. My whole life, I grew up playing college baseball. I grew up playing baseball my whole life, and my dream was to play college baseball. But I actually blew my hamstring 2 or 3 times, and I just had to hang up the cleats. And I was like, I still got to compete. I still want to do it somehow, and I still got to do it at the collegiate level somehow because that was my dream. Mm-hmm. So then I just switched to bass fishing, and you know, I've had a rude awakening because it's hard to compete against some of these guys that, you know, been doing it as long as I played baseball, and I picked it up like, you know, about my senior year of high school. So I'd always fished, but I'd never, you know, fished competitively. So I started running around and, you know, fishing all the collegiate tournaments. And within like 6 months, I was the secretary. And within like a year and a half, I was the president. And I was the president for like 3 years. So I learned a lot about, you know, the industry, the logistics of running a club, everything like that. And, that, opened some doors. Recently I got a phone call and, was asked to be one of the coaches for the Florida Gateway College bass fishing team for their inaugural team. And I got 6 guys on there that are all great guys. And it's been a lot of fun. So I'm actually getting to coach with one of my great buddies, Ron Riles, and then I'm sure everybody knows Shaw Grigsby. So we're all 3 coaching together. So it's been a lot of fun to get to give back in that way.
When do you get to spend any time at home? Sounds like you're a busy guy.
Yeah, I got like 4 more things on my plate too. So, that's why I said my wife's a sweetheart, because to be honest, I don't know how she puts up with me. Because, like today, I drove like 5 hours today. I walked in the door with 3 minutes and then jumped on with you guys. So, she's going to have like dinner ready when I'm done. And she already had my Yeti cup full of water sitting here at my desk to jump on the live call. So that's what I'm saying. I'm really, really busy, but what everybody doesn't see is the stuff that goes on in the background. And without her, I wouldn't have my head on straight, I don't think.
It's everybody we talk to, whether it's in the hunting industry or the fishing industry, anything to do with the outdoors, your family plays such an important role being supportive, because if they're not supporting what you're doing, then the work becomes just work, and it's just an ends to collecting a paycheck versus being able to really enjoy what you do. But when the family's on board and supportive, it makes all the difference in the world. So hats off to your wife.
For sure. I appreciate that. My whole family's been super supportive, and my mom was a huge player in that, and I actually lost her 2 years ago to ovarian cancer. So when I wake up every morning and get dressed, she fought a battle in cancer for 4 years, and even when she was going through chemo, doing it 4 or 5 times a week, she'd walk by and ask me how great my day was going. She'd call me and stuff like that. And, she really taught me that no matter what happens, you work as hard as you can until it's over. And so, I live my life like that. Whether it's not about money, it's not about me. We believe it's about glorifying the good Lord. And, my family believes that and supports all of us. And, we work as hard as we can every day to just help other people. And, each day after that accident, I learned each day is a gift and a blessing. So you utilize it, you enjoy it, and you help others, because you don't know if tomorrow's coming.
Absolutely. I don't want to get too deep into it, but I've been through so much in my life, and every day, you never know. I threw a thing up on Facebook here this week. It said, if you're taking, I don't remember exactly how it went, but basically, if there's things that you want to do and you're dreaming about it, don't wait. Do them now, because you never know, when that day is going to come. So everybody's, is given a certain amount of days here, and you got to make the most of it. And you've been given the opportunity to be able to share something that was tragic and hopefully save other people. That just says so much. Not only that, you're giving back to the kids, on the collegiate level, and talks that you give. So hats off to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And this has probably got to be at the top of your list of a question, but somebody wants to know, besides calling you a stud, is you the largest bass you ever caught, and what did you catch it
on? The largest bass I ever caught was a 9-1 out of a lake in Florida called Orange Lake. It's got a ton of hydrilla. I caught that a couple years ago, fishing on July 5th with my dad. My dad and I don't get a whole bunch of time anymore because of how busy I am, and he's busy too. So, as much as I'm on the road and running around like crazy, I value every fishing trip like that. And we hadn't fished together in a while. And I actually caught that on a Booyah one knocker in bling color. If you don't know, it's basically it's a one knocker rattle trap, basically, 1/2 ounce version. So I caught that just throwing in cuts of the grass, and I was catching a bunch of little ones, and she bit. So it's quite the fight when you got to pull her through a bunch of grass with treble hooks.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, now you mentioned treble hooks through grass. Yeah, that'll do it. In speaking of something big and like that, and remembering that, you've also the founder of Not Finished Fishing.
I am. So that's one of those things that, I kept having this urge, and that, I wanted to help people with something again. And I had a lot of those, high school kids and stuff that I was talking to, and had a lot of them coming up, and I try to stay as humble as I can, but they'd come up and ask for an autograph and stuff. I'm like, well, why do you want my autograph? You don't even know my name. And then, it started clicking for me. It's like, they might not know my name, but they look up to me, and I am to be a positive role model to them. And so that started happening more frequently at shows and different events. And, I'd get private messages and stuff like this, or, hey man, I want to do this. I saw you've done this. What is your best recommendation? So the whole Not Finished thing came up to where I kept thinking, after my mom passed, I was dabbling with it a little bit, right after my accident. And I just kept thinking, each day we wake up, it's a new opportunity. We're not finished. We're not finished with life. I'm definitely not finished fishing. So I was sitting in my office at the house one day, and I walked into Mariah, my wife, and I said, I'm just going to do this. It's like you just said, like, if you don't do it, you'll never know. So I'm like, the goal is to not make money. The goal is to help others. And if we can get some apparel out there, or, like wrist bracelets that I got on with Jeremiah 2911 on the back, like if we can get stuff out there that people look at that and it helps their day, helps them enjoy life, like why not? So we got some apparel made, had a website built, and actually had some great response from it. So, if anybody's interested out there, you guys can actually type in HS20 and get 20% off your order. But that's just a great way for me to, kind of help others. And when I'm at events and stuff like that, I can do some giveaways and stuff. But the whole idea behind it is that, we can't take life for granted. We need to help others. We're definitely not finished with life, and we're not finished with fishing. So it's opened a lot of cool doors. I've had a lot of people, reach out, and, had tremendous amount of feedback that people are like, man, that's a play on words, but I wake up every day and just go to the lake and didn't think that, how precious this is. I'm just going through the motions. So it's just one of those things that, like I said, that, my mom, lived each day to the fullest. And I was like, I basically founded that company in her honor, and, a couple other people that have really, I got one kid that works for me at 44 Tackle, and has went through some, very hard medical times, has had brain cancer and stuff like that. And that kid, every time he walked up to me, he met me through all of this stuff, boating safety, all that stuff. And he walked up to me and it was just like, man, I follow all your stuff. Thanks for always, responding to my messages on Instagram. Nobody else responds to my messages. And I just told myself that, man, like, if it's 5 people that I can help, I'll help 5 people. If this grows to 5,000, I'll help 5,000. If it grows to 50,000, great. It's just turning into something bigger than I ever thought it would be. So that's where the Not Finished thing came about, and that's continuing to grow. But, people like my mom and, those kids that all have stories that they've been impacted by something. They wake up every day, put their shoes and socks on just like I do. And, we're all human and have been impacted by things. And it's just meant to be, a positive way to help people.
Absolutely. And you can go find that over at notfinishedfishing.com. And your statement right on the front page says, Not Finished Fishing was founded to remind anglers to live each day with a purpose. Don't leave cast unmade, words unsaid, or dreams followed. And I tell you what, that rings no truer. I tell you what. So, it's one of those things that you just got to do it. You said it, right? You just got to do it. And you go out, you told your wife, you're doing it, you did it. So people listening, get on over there to notfinishedfishing.com, check it out, do everything you can to help.
Absolutely. You talk about, the accident and putting forth the message and everything. How many times have you been given a talk or something, and it relates to somebody, and it's not even about the being on the water or the boat? Maybe they're not even a fisherman. I mean, have you run across people like that where you've impacted somebody's life and it had nothing to do with the water, but the message just kind of touched them?
Absolutely. And, that's a great point you made, because when I first started this, I didn't know where it was going to go. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, I thought I got 1 year to shine. I got 1 year to help people. I didn't know if it would last any more than a year. I didn't know how much I could talk about boating safety. But what you just said is actually what's kind of carried me in a sense, because I would give a talk on boating safety, and then somebody would be like, oh man, I hunt. I've almost fallen out of a tree stand. Well, next thing you know, we're talking about wearing our tree stand harnesses. Or it's been something way, way more deep that they have come up to me and they've said, you truly turned a negative into a positive, and this is how you've spent it? I'm looking at things completely wrong. Or I've had this happen in my life. How do you share positivity? Mm-hmm. So it started as boating safety, and it still is boating safety, but I never know who I'm going to impact just by telling my story. And I mean, there's been some amazing instances just being on the road. Like, real quick, I had a lady one time, I'm fishing all over the country as well in the opens, and I roll into a gas station. I had just finished a tournament, and I mean, you had to scroll like this on Bassmaster.com to find my name. So I was like really upset. You know, you strive to do good, just doesn't happen all the time. So I roll into this gas station to get a Big Mac from McDonald's, and there's this lady that like taps me on the shoulder, and she's like, "Is that your rig out there?" Like, "Yes, ma'am." She's like, "Whoa, you must be like really good at fishing." I'm like, "I mean, I can catch some fish, but you can look at my last tournament; it wasn't very good." And she's like, "Well, you must be doing something right." And I said, "Ma'am, I'm just thankful to be alive, and I'm just trying to help people along the way." And she goes, "Well, that's just so special." She says, "Here's a napkin. Can you help me with something if you help people?" I said, "Yes, ma'am. What can I help you with?" She said, "Here's a napkin." I said, "Yes, ma'am. What would you like me to do with the napkin?" She says, "I want you to sign the napkin for me because I just met you." And I'm like, "I'll do one better. I'll be right back." I walk to my truck. I get a Yamaha hat. I signed it for her. And she looks at it, and she starts crying. And I was like, oh, man, this is one of those big picture moments again.
Right.
And I said, oh, no, we're in the, gas station trying to get a Big Mac, and now a lady's crying at me. What did I do? So I had signed the hat, and it always wrote, Jeremiah 29:11 on the hat, which basically just says I have plans for you to prosper and not to harm you. And she looked at it and she said, "You have no clue what this means to me." And I said, "Well, we'll be thinking about you, let you know, if there's anything you can do, you look me up on social media. I'd love to, help you." And she says, "No, you really don't know what this means to me. My son has been struggling with addiction, and he's been locked up time after time again. And I've been trying to figure out one way or another to help him and encourage him. And this helped me right now because I can take him for something. I can tell him a story." And I was like taken back. And I was like, wow, this is amazing how we started out at boating safety and now we're helping people in a gas station. And that's where it was like big picture again clicked for me. Just like my first year with the gentleman, I got to him emotionally.
Right.
And she looked at the hat and she goes, I've been, or actually she was still holding the hat. She looked at him. She's like, "Yeah, I've just been trying to, visit with him, while he's still in prison and he's really struggling, but I'm going to take this hat to him. And, I really keep telling him this verse, Jeremiah 29:11. I was like, "Ma'am, did you look at the hat?" She goes, "Oh my goodness, you wrote it on the hat too." Had no idea.
Wow.
It was just one of those stories, and that's happened to me several times across the country, just different ways like that. I just share that one because it was one of those moments that I was just like, man, we started at boating safety, but, that's when I started really, talking more about positivity because I was just like, like I said, and I'll say it again, like each day is a gift, and we ought to live that way because we ain't promised tomorrow.
Well, the basis is boating safe, but where that sprouts and goes from there can go anywhere. And you found that out multiple times. Gas station, you're starving for a Big Mac, and you come across this lady, and you made a great impression to her, and it just shows you that you never know, but the power of positive thinking.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, I tell you what, we're bumping up here on our last break.
He does have a day job, I think.
Yeah, you think?
We got to talk about that, too.
All right, we're going to step outside, take our last break. We come back, we'll continue the conversation and see where it takes us. You never know. Just like what you said. So we'll be right back after this.
Acceleration is part of PSE's DNA. PSE pioneered the speed movement. Now they've developed the vapor category to help you find the most powerful bows on the market to fit you.
High speed equates to intense power and building the momentum you need to be successful. Are you a vapor shooter? Find out at psearchery.com.
Welcome back. Last segment of the show. We've covered a lot of ground tonight and talking about things. An accident has given you this opportunity, and then comes along Yamaha and gives you the platform to be able to reach out and branch out with this. And we'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about Yamaha, who's backing you. What we need to talk about some of the equipment you're running right now. What do you got going? What are you using on the water? Boat wise, motor wise, all that good stuff.
I run a Skeeter FXR 20, powered by my 250 Yamaha SHO. I got that decked out with Humminbird electronics and Minn Kota Ultrex. I'm running Minn Kota Raptors this year, so that's been really cool. So, that gets me anywhere I need to go, always has my back, anything I need, never lets me down. Yamaha preaches maintenance matters. That's really all there is to it. Follow the owner's manual, get your regular scheduled oil change, and that thing is bulletproof.
Talking about their motors, the maintenance and everything, obviously, like you said, you had done all the maintenance on the motor in the boat that you were in when the accident happened. But how important is it to stay up on top of that maintenance?
I mean, not only does it help with the longevity of your product, it helps the performance of the product. But if you're staying up on that regular scheduled maintenance, that's also making sure that you're, hands on deck. And that contributes to boating safety. So, I have a Yamaha dealer do all my services myself. And, it's not that I don't want to learn how. It's more that I don't, necessarily I'm running around like crazy. And I know those guys are the best at what they do. They're trained Yamaha technicians that when I take that there, they're going to look over everything, run the computer. Everything's good to go. Get my oil changed. But just because I take it to a Yamaha dealer does not mean I don't have my hands on that boat at all times. Like, I have my boat in the shop at the house, and before I, leave, I got a checklist I'm running through to, look it over. Sometimes I'm just standing there putting some tackle in, and then I'll just walk around my engine, make sure that it's completely tight, make sure that I haven't loosened any steering bolts or anything like that. And, that's part of that maintenance. Part of that maintenance is on your own in between your regularly scheduled dealer maintenance. And I feel like that helps with the longevity. It really helps with the performance too, because if your hands are always on that product, you're going to know if something doesn't feel right, something looks off. It could be something as simple as you run over a ton of fishing line and it got wrapped around your prop. But that's now, depending on how much it is, can even affect the handling of the boat. That if you just checked that and spun your prop for 30 seconds, you would have caught it.
There you go. And something I noticed here, I'm going to put this picture back up that you sent us. Your boat, it's wrapped with Yamaha's Power Pay. Talk a little bit about the Power Pay and Yamaha program. And we've talked about it before, but, give a shout out to Yamaha for that again.
Yeah, it's a really, really cool program that they just kicked off about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now, I believe. I get to rock that Power Pay wrap, so it's pretty awesome. But Power Pay is a contingency program, completely free. The engine just has to be, 5 years or newer. And now this year you can be, the third owner now or the second owner as long as that engine is at least 5 years or newer. So what's really cool about it is free, and you're basically, if you don't sign up for that program, you're just leaving free money on the table, all the way from high school events all the way up to the Elite Series, the Bassmaster Classic. There's a lot of local trails that are affiliated with that, and that program is continuously expanding. But you can find all that information on YamahaPowerPay.com. But it's a really cool program. I even saw a college angler that qualified for Yamaha's Power Pay contingency in the Bassmaster College National Championship, and he won a ton of money because of that. And again, it was just because he was running that product. He didn't have to pay anything, but he was the highest finisher. So a lot of events, they pay the highest finisher that's registered for Yamaha Power Pay and the second highest finisher, depending on the events. Sometimes it would be the highest finisher, but it's a really, really cool program that, I encourage you guys to check it out, because especially if you're already running a Yamaha product that meets that criteria, and you can find the remaining criteria, like I said, online. But if you're already running that product, all you got to do is sign up, you're good to go. And now you can, those events that you're already competing in, now you sometimes got an extra $3,000 laying right there on the table that you've been missing out on.
Well,
so definitely take advantage of that.
As you were talking, we have the YamahaPowerPlay.com website up, and it says to date they've paid out over $157,000. And if you're watching the screen scroll here, a 13th place got a couple $100, 6th place, 21st place got $250. So
up to $3,000 I saw in there.
Yeah, I saw $3,000 depending on, you don't have to be first place. That's the thing,
Correct.
So 10th place, $250. So it's free to join. Check it out. Go check out the website. See if, if you're going to be doing any tournaments. It's free to sign up. So why not? Like you said, don't leave money on the table, right?
Absolutely, and it's really cool to me that that program allows all the way from a high school angler up until an older adult competing in anything. So it really encompasses all ages in that program, and that's really cool.
And that's awesome. It just gives another shout out to Yamaha for doing what they're doing on the fishing side of things with Power Play. Question: Have you ever let someone else drive your boat and or your truck?
I have not. There's been a few people that I let back my truck into the water, but it's very difficult just because, when you're in New York, 22 hours from home, it's not that you don't trust others. It's just that if something was to happen, I want it to be my fault. Like if I, hit a curb or something and pop my truck tire, I'd rather somebody else not have that guilt all day, because now I'm got to figure out how to get to fix 22 hours from home.
Well, Mark Coleman, no, he's not going to let you drive his boat or his truck. That's where we're going with that
Hey, but if you want to go for a spin and you see me out and about, I'll definitely drive you around and take you for a spin.
There you go.
There you go. That's awesome. We've talked about you're talking about boating safety. We've talked about pro fishing with Yamaha, skeeter boats, the foundation with Not Finished Fishing. We still haven't even talked about your marketing and pro staff job at 44 Tackle.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I started working with those guys, and Chris, the owner, actually, brought me on board, but he actually fishes all the Bassmaster Opens with me as well. So it's really cool to get to work on the business with him and get to travel with him. We travel together and stuff, so it's a lot of fun. But it's holds a special place in my heart because they do a lot with the youth, take boating safety very seriously. I was kind of helping them on the side over the summer when kind of COVID happened. And I was doing all my stuff from Zoom like this because I couldn't give talks in front of, college kids or, bigger events that I was going to, making appearances. So everything was on Zoom. So I started helping Chris, and then now I've been helping him full time and even go to the office, 5 days a week. So it's been, I took on something else, but it was something else that, I'm very passionate about because I love the brand. And, what we are is we have an online retail store that's 44tackle.com, has pretty much everything fishing you can think about. And then we have a physical location in Inverness, Florida. So the cool thing about us is, we do free shipping on $35 or more, and we get it out pretty quick. You've seen a lot of other companies, it's very, very difficult, getting stuff out the door really quick, just relapse from COVID and stuff. But I mean, actually what's cool is the post office is practically in the same parking lot as us, because when an order comes in, it comes to all of our phones, we pick it, we ship it, we walk to the post office, and we're good to go. But if anybody's ever in any need of any tackle, you guys can reach out to me, shoot us an email, reach out to 44 Tackle on social. But if you guys are in need of anything, you guys can use HP22 and get a discount on anything you need there. But it's another one of those places that, I'm very passionate about because it allows me, we sell Mustang survival products there. Mustang's been a huge supporter of me. When somebody walks in the shop and asks the life jacket question, I just jump for joy because now I can explain to them in a retail setting. And that's one of those places, to be honest, that I was missing and I feel like there's so much education to be done, especially on PFDs or even boating safety. When you walk in and somebody's just shooting the bull talking about, the latest devil's horse they caught them on at the local lake, you can easily talk about boating safety, or they might be looking for a PFD. And now, all of us there at the shop can, help you get the right PFD. And ultimately we're giving back at boating safety. And like we've always said from day one, like if you're impacting one life and saving one life, it's all been worth it. So that for me, 44 Tackle is not only family, but it's a place that I can continue, to give back to young kids. I can give back to people of all ages, and again, share that love for and passion for boating safety and fishing. So I couldn't be, where I am today without those guys. And it's truly another thing that, I got my hands in all this stuff all over the place. But when I wake up in the morning, I'm like 1,400 emails, phones ringing off the hook, phones ringing at my desk. But I mean, when I clock out at, sometimes 10:30 at night, I'm happy to get up at, 6:30 in the morning the next day and do it all over again.
You sent him 1,400 emails the other day?
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Hey, if you don't know about me, I exaggerate a lot. So it's probably like, 40, and it turned into 1,400.
And that was Chris Kingray over there at 44 Bait, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, matter of fact, he has a comment in the chat right now that says that Chris guy is a piece of work.
Hey, I tell you what, we got a few minutes left, and you mentioned something that got me to thinking, and being able to interact with customers about, tackle, PFD, whatever. I think we'd be a little remiss here if we didn't give you the opportunity, because honestly, I don't know. How does one go about sizing and fitting the proper PFD when they're on the water? I mean, how do you do that? What's the proper procedure for that?
I mean, that's a great question. And honestly, we probably could do a whole hour segment on just selecting the right PFD. And I actually launched a safety series with Skeeter boats this year on, we're calling it Skeeter Safety. And you can find that on YouTube, for some additional references and resources. But the main thing is you want it to be U.S. Coast Guard approved. And when you open up pretty much every PFD, what would be the back portion of the PFD? So when you open it up, you're staring right at it. There's going to be a U.S. Coast Guard basically bulletin. It's going to tell you chest size. It's going to tell you weight. It's going to tell you all that stuff of those, cold hard facts that you're going to need to know about sizing that PFD. But real quick, I'll dive in a little bit that you've got foam. And, kids' life vests are their own category. You really got to pay close attention to that and, the weight and the size, because what you're dealing with here is buoyancy. So you might be like, well, this one fits great. But if you jump in the water, that thing comes all the way over your head. And now you're swimming in the armholes and it did you no good. Right. So now you're trying to figure out how to swim in the water and swim in your life vest that is meant to help you float. So you got inflatables, you got foam. Foam is great. It's the tried and true method. But there's a lot of new technology, just like Mustang has their Excel 100, which is foam. You got an Elite 28 and other inflatable models that actually have 1.5 times the amount of buoyancy than foam does. So what that does is if you become, where you find yourself in a survival situation, what happens is now you're trying to survive, and now you're floating in the water. We hope and pray this never happens. But if you got foam, you got 1.5 times less what you could have out there. Now, granted, this is something that you're requiring. It's an inflatable, so something's got to go off. But I can assure you, I've been to, Mustang's plant of how much testing really goes into those. It is very, very safe. And that's personally what I wear, is an inflatable. Just because if I find myself in a survival situation, I got 1.5 times the amount of buoyancy. It's going to roll me over and it's going to keep my head out of the water. So if the water level is here and I was barely just keeping my head up, with an inflatable 1.5 times the amount of buoyancy, now that water level is closer to my chest. Now I got way more room to swim and work around. So, preference, it does come down to that. You want to be comfortable in it. The main thing is you just want to wear a PFD. I wear a PFD anytime I'm on the water anymore, just because I fish by myself a lot. And again, you never know what can happen, so why not just take the extra caution? And, with an inflatable, it's not as bulky as foam, so I can fish throughout the day. I even leave my engine cutoff switch hooked up to that. And never take it off. And when I store my PFDs, I keep my engine cutoff switch attached to it. So, it's selecting life jacket. Just pay attention to the U.S. Coast Guard ratings. And that's what I'm here for too. Reach out if you have any questions whatsoever. But that's what's cool about 44 Tackle too. We can give that real hands-on knowledge that we've all learned that you can't get everywhere. And that's really, something I'm working hard on, is that you can go anywhere in the country, but not all the time does the person, selling you the PFD even boat. So that's where I think it's very important to, just like anything else, you research before you buy that new Toyota Tundra. So definitely research before you buy that PFD.
There you go.
And as you were talking, we were playing the video you did with Skeeter with selecting the right PFD. So we had that playing in the background as you were talking. So
that's something I'm going to be looking at here really soon. I want to take my grandson with me out kayaking, and he's grown since I bought him the little tiny life jacket to use in the pool. So now I've got to look for something that's going to fit him properly, and that's the biggest thing, is I want to make sure that he is safe when he's out on the kayak with me. So I'll definitely be looking at that and checking that out, as well as looking at making sure I've got the right thing for him. So,
and one of the questions coming across is what's a typical price range for a good PFD?
For a good foam PFD that's got a roll collar, really good buckles and zippers, even pockets and stuff, and a lot of them will even have a reflective tape on it. If you become, or find yourself in some survival situation, you're looking at somewhere in the $85 price range there. You're going to notice as you get into these really good inflatables that have that 28 pounds of buoyancy, you're looking about the $240 price range. But what I like to tell people is I'm buying a $240 life jacket because I could buy a $240 rod and reel, but I already got 20 of those. I'm going to make sure that I and making sure I make it home to my family safely. So just think about it as extra fishing equipment. You need that in order to continue fishing. So instead of buying that rod or reel, buy something that it's going to continue to let you, fish and utilize those rod and reels. So, and really that price goes into the fact of how much testing really is done into those. They're put into dunk tanks. They can't leak they can't leak like 1%, I believe it is, over the course of 24 hours. I mean, there is a lot of testing done into that, which is why they're priced at where they're priced.
I like to take your analogy just a little bit further and say you can spend $250 now or $2,000 on my casket.
Right.
So
Later.
I think the $250 now, it's kind of well worth it. And
There's a good question that just came up.
right, exactly. And what is the life expectancy of a PFD, and do they have an expiration date?
On foam, you would just want to watch the quality of it. Like if it sits in your garage or something and you notice that, it's getting, it's deteriorating because it's, been in the hot sun or something. Like Florida, we have to watch a lot more things because, in my shop at the house, it's 110 degrees even in the winter. So there's a lot more things and humidity and stuff that eats at products and things. But foam, you can have a really good long-term, product there. But there is, no real, date that you would have to throw that foam one away. It's just really monitoring how the quality of the product is changing over time. If you take good care of it, it'll last you for a while. The inflatables are a little bit more complicated. Generally, you can utilize that if you never have to, if that inflatable never inflates, you should be good for like 3 or more years. You just, at every inflatable on the bottom, there's going to be a little light. And if it's green, you're good. If it's red, it's bad. You would need to replace that cartridge.
Right.
And in inflatables, you would have to buy a cartridge that turns that good to go. So really, those inflatable PFDs are really good long-term. You're just going to have to replace a cartridge, every 3 years or so, which, they're like $80. So $80 over the course of 3 years is pretty, not too bad in the long run. But those, if they went off one time, you put an inflatable cartridge in there and it goes off again, you just pack it up and put another one in.
Right, exactly.
So really, it's just checking your product. Like, I check the motor, the motor bolts on my show. I know they're tight, but I'm still going to check them because I run across the lake.
It's also like checking your fishing, making sure it's good, right?
Right. I mean, I check that knot to make sure I'm not going to break off on the 2-pounder I got, so
right?
Why not check my PFD?
Because that 2-pounder that broke your line isn't as bad as the 9-pounder that you had up by the boat, but you lost them.
That's right.
So
I tell you what, we're bumping up here at the end of the show. We'll hang on with you here after we do let the podcast portion play out here. But we want to thank you for just taking some time out of your evening, sitting with us and talking for an hour plus now, almost hour and a half. It's been a great show, a lot of great information. And, make sure you go over to Hunter's social media pages, give him a like, follow, share, and do the same for us as well. Share the show. There's some great information in here that could actually, change somebody's life and help save a life. So, and that's what we really wanted to get across tonight. So that'll do it for the podcast portion of the show tonight, folks. Y'all take care, and we'll be back again same time next week. This episode was brought to you by
PSE Archery, Yamaha Outboards, Better the Hunt, Easy Cut, Packer Max, Deer Camp Coffee, Buck Baits, JPO Game Calls, Limwalker Game Calls, Wild Seasoning, Total Peep, Sunrise Archery, Scent Lock, and Scent Blocker.
Thanks for listening, and join us again here next week. Until then, remember, as we always like to say, if you're out on the water or in the woods, shoot straight and be safe until next week on the Up North Journal.